There he is. Okay, so hey guys, it's KMCers. I'm Kiersten, and today's video is another travel diaries video. If you don't know, Chris and I travel places. We travel to places every single year, usually for our anniversary, but this trip we actually took during our Thanksgiving break. And this took place back in 2018. So, yeah, I will be inserting photos and videos throughout the video, kind of just to show you our experience. So let's just get on with this. Okay, so let's just start by talking about the day before our trip. Well, he's dying over there. And then I'll go into our first day of our trip officially. So, so Chris had to work that day. It was like a Monday, I think it was. Yeah, pretty sure it was a Monday. But he had to work, so I had ended up packing like the last minute things and packing up the stuff for the dogs because Panda and Moose were gonna stay with Chris's family for our trip, and I drove them down there and got them all settled in. I had a conversation with his mom for a while, telling him like the important stuff on like their routines and how much they eat and all that kind of fun stuff. And then after that, I ended up leaving, and as I was leaving, I had to say a very painful goodbye to Moose. At the time, Moose was really young. He was like 6 months old, 4 months old, something like that, and he was very much tiny and very much attached to me, as he still is, but it was the most painful thing I think I've ever done. I was leaving him for the week, and it was a long week. Longest time I've ever left him, and when I was leaving, he was just crying, like the saddest cry you've ever heard in your life. So it was really, really hard, and I ended up like pretty much crying all the way home because it was really heart-wrenching and it was bad. But anyways, after Chris got off work, we ended up heading to Lincoln, where my grandparents lived, because they were also going on this trip with us, and we were also going to stay there because of the fact that we were gonna be leaving at like 2, 3 in the morning for the airport, and the airport is in that direction. We were going to the Omaha airport, so we ended up staying with my grandma that night, and once we arrived there, we ended up unloading our car into our room there, and then we ended up like hanging out. We took our showers, we kind of just hung out until we decided to go to bed at like 10, 11 o'clock that night. To get a couple hours of sleep before we had to get up really early to go on this trip. And of course, because I was so excited, guess what I couldn't do? I could not sleep at all. What is wrong with you? I basically just couldn't sleep. I was too excited. Total, we maybe got 2 or 3 hours of sleep total, but I definitely did not get that. So now we're gonna jump into day 1 of our trip. So jumping into day 1, so we ended up waking up about 2 in the morning. We ended up getting dressed, we packed up our stuff, and then we got into some comfy clothes because, okay, it was difficult. We wanted something that was cool because it was winter here, but we wanted something that would be not hot once we got to Mexico. Also, I don't know if I told you, but we're going to Mexico. That's where we're going. So when we were in Lincoln, it was about 30 degrees outside, somewhere around there. It was really, really cold. Fahrenheit. 30 degrees Fahrenheit. And then once we got to Cancun, which is where we were flying into, it was about 90 degrees outside. It was extremely hot, so dressed accordingly, we tried. While we were getting up and ready, my grandpa decided to watch the news like he always did every single day. He watches the news. I don't know. It's an old person thing, I think. So we ended up loading up my grandma's car with their luggage, our luggage, all of our carry-on stuff, everything we were gonna basically bring. And then we decided to get on the road to go to the airport in Omaha. And as we were driving to the airport, I remember seeing like 3 deer, and it was weird because they were in the middle of freaking Lincoln. It was definitely not something I've ever seen before, but I guess it happens more often than not. But once we made it to the airport, we found our parking spot and we got all of our stuff out of our car, and the shuttle for the airport pulled up and let us on. We put our bags on and all that fun stuff. And we kind of waited around for other people to get on. I think a few more people got back on, but not a lot of people. Again, it was really early in the morning. And then the shuttle took us to the airport so we can get our luggage and all that checked in and all that fun stuff. So once we got into the airport, we were kind of just waiting around for my aunt and my uncle and my cousin to come because they were also going on this trip with us. And we were just kind of waiting around, and once we got the plane ticket information, we ended up checking in and getting our luggage checked in and weighed and all that fun stuff that you do. And then once that was done, they told us to go to the security area. So we walked to the security area and got checked over. Our carry-on stuff had to be all unpacked, and you know that fun stuff that you have to do. And once we got through the security check and all that, we ended up finding a seat close to our gate, and then we just waited to be boarded. And then at like 5:40 in the morning, they decided to board our plane. So we waited in line, scanned our tickets, walked through, went and found our seats, got all our stuff all figured out. And once that happened, we were just kind of waiting around. I ended up getting a window seat, and this is our first plane ride ever. We've never been on a plane before, either one of us. So we were kind of scared, but also kind of excited. It was kind of a weird feeling. You know, that fun stuff. And once we got buckled in and all that, they went over all the security, like the exits and all that fun stuff that they have to go through. And while we were sitting there, we were waiting for the we were waiting for the plane to get gas, and they also had to defrost our wings and our jet engines and stuff because it was super cold, so they were frozen over. And once that happened, we ended up taking off for Chicago, Illinois. Again, like I said, we were nervous but excited, so we kind of held each other's hands, and it took off, and we really liked that. It was really fun. But once we were in the air, we decided to listen to music, which we listened to until we landed in Chicago. And by the time we got to Chicago, they had to, since we were in the back of the plane, they had to onboard everybody in front, and then it was us. But the thing was, our plane, for our next plane, was gonna be taking off like in 15-20 minutes, somewhere around there. So by the time we got off of our plane, we had to basically run to our next gate, and luckily it was not that far away. It was only just like a few gates down. But it really wasn't that far, but we luckily made it to our next plane just in time. And once we found our seats and all that, they talked about the safety thing as always, but we also had to fill out some kind of form thing for entering their country and exiting our country, something with like the government or whatever. So once we took off, we were in the air and we were gonna fill out this little form thing, but we had to ask my grandma for some help because some of it we didn't understand. In fact, I think one of the forms was actually only Spanish. Don't ask me why, it just was. So the rest of the time we ended up listening to music, we ended up falling asleep. It was like a 4-hour plane ride, something like that. And once we landed, so we landed about 1:45 in the afternoon in Cancun, Mexico. And once we landed, we got checked into their country, I guess you could say. I don't know what you want to say. We ended up finding our bags, went through security, all that fun stuff. And then once we got out, we had to find the resort that had the drivers that were taking us to our resort. And once we did that, we got loaded up into this van. Was it a van? It was a van, yeah, it was a van. And the driver like drove us there. But his driving was so crazy. It was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. Yeah. But 3 o'clock we ended up getting to our resort that we were staying at, and since we've never been to Mexico, we had to learn that you have to tip the driver and tip the maids and tip the waiters, tip everybody, because that's like a custom, I guess, that you do. We didn't know this, we just kind of learned this as we were going through this. So once we got checked into our rooms, which they helped guide us to our rooms and brought us our bags for us. And once we got into our room, we saw on the bed that there was an elephant towel on the bed. And then we kind of just looked around our room, we placed our bags. And then we ended up changing into our swimsuits because we were gonna go to the pool right away. Since we had still the afternoon to do stuff. So after we ended up changing, we ended up meeting my aunt, uncle, my grandparents, and all that. And we all walked down to the pool area, which was quite a distance. So like a hotel usually has like the pool inside. So you only walk down the halls and in the building. But the resort is like you stay somewhere, but then there's all these other extra buildings that were all around it. So you had to walk everywhere you went, which was quite a walk. So we ended up walking down to the pool area. We ended up also walking down to the beach because our pool was right off the beach, which we've never been to a beach before. We kind of just walked along the ocean. And after that we went swimming, and then after we went swimming we kind of went and took showers to get the chlorine out of our hair, and we ended up dressing up to go to dinner, as we do pretty much every night of this trip. We ended up meeting everybody at the bar area and we played a game of Farkle. That was a fun game. We've never played it before, but then we kind of like learned how to play it while we were there. Chris kept getting all the good rolls. Like everything was like 2,000, 1,000. You know, like he was getting the good rolls. Which he ended up winning the game, even though he's never played before. That was great. We ended up going to dinner, which we really much enjoyed, and then after that we went back to our room, just because we were so tired, and we ended up watching some TV. I think it was like a movie, and then we passed out. Yeah, that was our day 1.